Hello everyone, welcome back to this Dash 8 tutorial series. We're back in Queenstown and today's topic is systems checks. These are checks and tests we do every 24 hours before the first flight of the day. So let's jump into the cockpit. Today we're the captain. The first officer can do the walk around while we get situated and started on the tests. So here we are in the cockpit. Everything is cold and dark. First thing we can do is a quick scan just to check that batteries are off, gens and bus tie on. External power will come on when we connect the GPU. Everything in the ice protection and windshield panel is off. Lights are off. Everything looks normal, should be in off or a neutral position. The dump switch is set to off from the shutdown the day before. Position lights stay on. No smoking is always on, and everything here is auto and off. AC gens are on. On the forward panel by the tiller on the captain's side, everything is off. Radios are off in the center pedestal, and everything else looks fine here. So we're gonna start with, well, this should be in taxi. Okay, well, that switches off. This is a magnetically held switch, so when there's no power, it flips up to flight. We are gonna take this back down to taxi once we get power. So we can go ahead, connect the GPU. That's a bit noisy, so let's just turn it down. And to get power to the aircraft, we are gonna turn the batteries on. Screens will not turn on before we turn them on using the rotary dials on the pedestal. But right now we're on battery. Let's get external power going. And to have control of our electrics, we need to get some screens on. So let's turn PFDs and MFDs on both sides on. They go into test mode, and the engine page is down here in the middle by the trims. We can also turn the FMSs on. So the screens will do their self-test cycle. And the first test we're gonna do is PFD, MFD, ED power reset. And basically what it does is go to off then bright. We started with the screens off, and as far as I know, no one really does turn them on, then off and on again. That's just tear and wear and tear on the screens. So we're just gonna put them all to bright and see that that works. First officer side as well. And we know that this worked fine with turning them on and up to full bright. No need to complicate it. Next check we're gonna do, well, we can turn the radios on. So we turn them to both, not to on, but to both, so they can communicate with each other. Next up is the passenger address and cabin interphone systems checks. This is a very basic check just to see that the PA system works. Turn the rotary dial here to PA. And one of the tests is to call the cabin attendant position. So you do the call, and they would pick up and check that everything works. When they pick up, this will start showing bright green, and do the PA test as well. This, I think it should stay on. Yeah, this turns on, so this is the way it's supposed to be. When they pick up, the call sign would also turn green. So it's just check the speakers in the cabin that they work very quickly. 1, 2, 3 test. Next up is the flight data recorder test. Hold it to the test position. See that the light extinguishes and reappears when you release it. APU test is next. Push the APU power button. It does its self-test, and the valve goes from closed to open. Next is the APU fire detection test. Press and hold the fire test button. APU valve, fuel valve goes to closed. White button light up here. The bottle arm amber light is armed, illuminated. Bottle fault is illuminated. And fire is illuminated. Extinguish is illuminated as well. And we get the fire and caution lights on the glare shield panel as well. Everything's flashing, and if you release it, it goes back to normal and goes to open. The caution warning lights, they will stay flashing until you press them again. Good, and we're not going to start TPU now, so we press the power button again, and the valve goes back to closed. So that's the test complete. Next up is the engine fire detection test. We pull the switch to the left to test engine number 1, and we can see the fault A and B lights light up. The pull fuel off handle is illuminated. We have a fire detection warning, and warning light is flashing, fire light is flashing. And now this is a bit hard to do in the sim. Whilst you're holding the fire test switch on the overhead, you're supposed to press this fire warning light and switch on the glare shield as well. But we can't do that, so I'm just gonna try to click it quickly, and that should extinguish the tone and flashing lights. Same for engine number 2. Detection faults. Pull fuel off handle is illuminated. Warning is flashing. And we get the flashing lights on the glare shield as well. Next is the baggage smoke tests. We're going to do aft and forward tests. Aft is number 1. Forward is number 2. So we're just going to flip this to 1. We're getting the smoke extinguished. Ventilation inlet and outlet illuminates. Fire bottle aft is illuminated. We're getting a warning for smoke and a warning light on the glare shield. Let's cancel that and do number 2. And same here, we're getting the lights on the overhead, warning panel, and on the glare shield. So next up is the stall warning test. We're going to test system 1 and 2. And the switch to do that is front left panel by the captain. So we're just gonna push this to test 1. We're getting a terrain warning. Pull up. And you can hear the stick shaker starting. That's the left stick shaker on the captain's side. Stall 1 system failure push failure will illuminate, and the stick shaker goes off. And we do the same for number 2. Good. So that's the right stick shaker. And that's this black thing you can see on the back of the stick. That's the shaker module. Next test is ADC Air Data Computer. Again, it's on the left side of the captain. We're switching it to test 1. And as you can see, the screens here go to 14360, that's correct. Altimeter is changed to 990, correct. It's 284, 285, close enough. VMO. And yeah, that's correct, 285 on the pilot's PFD. Indicated SAT is -15. ES mismatch and alt appears on the MFD. That's correct. Pitch trim, elevator feel, and avionics caution lights illuminate. So pitch trim, elevator feel, yep, that's there. And the over speed warning is activated, and that's supposed to happen after 5 seconds. So that's all correct. Very good, and it goes back to normal. And caution light extinguished. Let's do number 2. And same for first officer side. 14360, 285, 990 AS, and mismatch altitude. And we have the caution lights. Very good, everything's modeled. So next test is ground proximity warnings. So GPVS. And to do this test, it says that nav1 needs to be operative and turned to a VOR frequency. So I've turned into the Queenstown VOR here, 13.6, both on 1 and 2. FMS1 needs to be on and initialized. It is. So we can just accept this to make sure. Flap selector is in 0 degrees. EFCS, select nav and terrain. We are in terrain here. Good. And GPS flap override switch is normal and guarded. That's down here on the left side. That's normal. GPS caution light is out. And we are gonna do a momentary press on the pull-up GPS test switch. That's the top one here. It says GPS test. So one press, we get a glide slope, pull up, we get a test picture, and then it goes back up. And it also gave the oral warnings with glide slope, pull up, terrain, terrain, pull up, and a terrain test pattern, as I mentioned. If you do a longer press, you will get a longer test where it goes through all the different voice warnings, etc. But that's not part of the daily tests. That's more of an extended test for technicians. Next up is a very easy test. You have the HSI select switch here on the glare shield. It's basically when it's to the left. The right screen should say HSI with the arrow to the left. If you press it, that disappears. You get an HSI on the left side screen here, pointing to the right, and the arrow goes the same way. And then just press it back again to the pilot flying side for the next sector. Landing gear, lights, and horn. Then let's go to the right side here. If you take that down to test position, you get the oral warning, and all the lights are showing. Then we're coming to the auto feather test. Auto feather button is in the center between the FMSs here. And to do this test, just make sure that the condition levers are in fuel off position or in the start feather position. No reason to be in start feather when we're shut down, so fuel off is the normal. Power levers are in the disc position, and then press the auto feather. It will say auto feather select and up trim, AF test in progress at weather armed. So as you can see, it's just doing an automated test to go through its parameters, and you will get a warning if this fails. And we got an auto-weather test passed. Next up is a trim panel test. To do this, you have to release the control lock, and you're gonna just run through the aileron and rudder and elevator pitch trim ranges. So it's just a little bit of a tedious test. If the first officer is done with the walk around, he can usually help out with this. So it's just pushing, holding, and since you have two hands in real life, you can do at least two of these tests at the same time. On the rudder trim, as you can see here, there's two different kinds of arrows. This is also something that you have in the real aircraft. There are two lines. So on the small arrow, you only go to the small step. On the big arrow, you go all the way out, and it moves much, much quicker. So when we're doing the constant rudder trims in air, we're usually only using the first step. The second step is quite violent. For an engine failure, we have to trim opposite, and then I think the rule is do the maximum trim 3 seconds just to get close to what you need, and so you can relax your legs a little bit. The FlyJSim doesn't model the rudder trim needs. It's more of an automatic system here. I think the Majestic used to model this, so it's going to be exciting to see when Majestic comes to Microsoft Flight Simulator again, and if it's modeled. It's in a simulator, it's more of a nuisance because you don't have that feeling of flying out of trim. And in the real aircraft, we would put the nose trim just slightly to the right to counteract the propellers spinning. That's two of the tests done, and well, I can't press the trims here, but I can do it on my stick, and down here on the elevator trim we can see it moving. And one thing that, well, it might even be useful here in the sim, if you have a front heavy aircraft, what we will do on the elevator trim is put it on the aft end in this takeoff range, the white marker in the middle. So a front heavy aircraft, put it somewhere near this side, and if you have an aft heavy aircraft, you put it more to the front. As you can see, when I hold it, you also get a caution here, push off, elevator trim, shut off. So that's another safety feature where you can turn off the trim if it runs away. All the tests we've done so far have been on the captain side. Now we're gonna do a couple of tests on the first officer side. So right now we have the anti-skid is in the off position, and we see the inboard and outboard anti-skid caution lights on the caution warning panel. We put this to on and they extinguish. If you now go to test, they come back on, release, and these should extinguish after 6 seconds. You can do the same test in the air and then it will extinguish after 3 seconds. So next up we have the TCAS test. At my operator, the first officer does this as well. Make sure you have a map view on your navigation display here and press the transponder code ATC1 window, expand, and you can press the test button. What would happen here in real life is that you would get all the different TCAS warning symbols coming up on the screen, and it would give you some oral warnings and finish with TCAS system test OK. I think I've gotten this to work in the simulator before, but for some reason today I've tried several different things and it just won't do anything. But that's at least one of the important tests we need to do on this side. For the final tests we need to have the engines running, so just give me a second and I'll be right back after engine start. Next up is the ice protection tests. These are only done if we are anticipating or there are forecast icing conditions. Today here in Queenstown with 15 degrees and rain we might get some icing in the higher cloud layers, so we're gonna run through them. To do these tests we have to have the condition levers in max, and first of all we're gonna check the de-ice pressure indicator. That's positioned on the right side by the first officer. The ice pressure on the left and right side measured in PSI. This should be 18 PSI plus or minus 3. This is a very normal indication we have here. And we're gonna do the airframe mode select switch first. This will inflate all the different segments of the boots on the aircraft, on tail, wings and engine intakes. We're gonna do it in the fast test mode. First of all, it's gonna inflate the edges of the wings. Then it's gonna move inwards one step. And for the next step, it's alternating the inboard and second-most inboard on both wings, and then it's gonna switch sides. And the next two positions, it's gonna do the right engine intake doors together with the innermost section of the tail, and then it's the left engine intake with the outer section of the tail. The reason why it's doing that is if there is ice on the intakes, if you inflate both at the same time, you might ingest ice on both engines. In rare occasions, this has led to engine flameouts if there is extreme icing, so you don't want that to happen on both engines at the same time. Then it's in a 24-second dwell mode before it starts again, and we can turn it off. It will now proceed and run through one more test cycle. It doesn't abort it just because you turn it off. It will finish one cycle. So that's also one thing we do sometimes when we're coming into approach. We've passed through some icing, for example. We just quickly turn it to fast and back to off, and it will run through one cycle and blow off whatever remains on the wings. Next up, we're gonna test the airframe manual select switch. This is a switch that makes it possible to turn on the boot segments one by one manually. And there is a little error in the programming here in the FlyJSim's version. According to the aircraft operator's manual, this should be able to turn on if the airframe mode select switch is either in the off or in the manual position. But as you can see, if it's in the off position, nothing happens. If we turn it to manual, we get inflation of the different boot segments. And just to quickly state what the manual says, on the airframe mode select manual position, that is to turn on the heated valves on the heaters manually. It specifically states that the boots can be inflated with a manual selection, either with an airframe manual select switch, either in the off or manual position. So this is a very common misconception that it needs to be in manual and that this is corresponding to the manual select switch. It does not, it's just a little bit confusing naming conventions here. So we use the manual position to heat the valves in case we've been flying in very cold conditions, for example, or after we've climbed out through precipitation, we've used the boots, and then we've done a longer cruise segment. It's always -degrees. And before coming back into icing conditions during the descent, we could put it into manual to heat and defrost the elements, the boot element valves, so they're not stuck when we need them to put them into slow or fast later on. So just a little thing FlyJSim could fix there. And next one, we have the prop selector test. First, let's just notice here that the oil temperature green band, the normal operating range, is between 0 and 107 degrees. As soon as we put the props into the test position, it will cycle between the props, but it will also reduce the green arc, and now it's between 55 degrees and 107 degrees Celsius. So you need 55 degrees Celsius to take off, and if you're going into known icing conditions. It seems like it's modeled a little bit differently here, but it should be 55 to 107 degrees. It's just running through its test, cycling between left and right, and when it's done one cycle, you can turn it back off. Next up is the stall protection system. We've already done the stick shaker test. Now it's the ice protection part of this, and the dash has a switch that I don't think any other aircraft has. It's the ref speeds increase switch. If we turn this on, we can check on the display. We have the increased ref speed coming on here. And if we were in the air, you would see that you would get a higher red band on the lower part of the speed tape. It will increase the speed, the stall warning speed here by 20 knots. That's basically all it does. So it's fully possible to fly with all the ice protection on, but ref speed off, and still have full protection but lower speeds. But of course that's not recommended. But it's one way to cheat the system if you have to fly slower. The aircraft will fly just fine with ice protection on, but if you don't know if there's ice or not on the aircraft, you should have the ref speeds on at all times. Then it's the engine intake doors. Those are the two green lights here. They're green when they're closed. So we will just press those. And this can take a few seconds, and it can be different between each engine. It's electric actuators that's now opening the intake bypass doors. It's now showing open heater on both sides, and if it's over 15 degrees, you might not get the lights to illuminate, or at least not the heater lights. And then we're turning them back off. Well, let's just keep them on. I'll jump outside and show you. So this is the doors open. Not recommended to go out and have a look when the props are running, of course, but these are in the open position. Then let's close them. And we're just waiting to see the green closed light come back on. There they are. Now we're going to test the windshield heating, or not test really, it's just turning them on. Windshield caution light should now go out. I don't think that's modeled here. Let's see, is it here at all? Windshield hot, windshield control. Oh, it's a windshield control. That should now go out, but it was never on in the first place. We don't turn the windshield heat to norm on days where it's more than 20 degrees Celsius on the ground. Then it only comes on once we're in the air. And that concludes the test. I hope you found this useful, and please check back for more tutorials later on. Have a nice day.